So this is Alice and Bill who own Winterburn House here in Willow Springs. We're on Archer up on the hill. And Alice, tell me a little bit about when you bought Winterburn House and what you guys loved about it.
We purchased the house in 1977 after seeing an ad in the Chicago Tribune of an older house in Willow Springs. And we were looking for an old house, and we were looking for a bigger house than the small one we owned in Chicago.
And so tell me what you guys liked about it. Like, what made you buy this house in particular?
What?
Well, it had a blue roof.
It had a big garage.
She liked the blue roof, and turns out it wasn't that big a deal, but it wasn't that wonderful a purchase because the blue roof was the fourth roof someone had put on the house, and shortly after we moved in, it started falling off.
Yeah.
Disappearing. So we had to redo the roof.
Were you looking for a project, like something to fix up?
No, we were just looking for an older house.
Okay.
That's all. And we walked through and we disregarded the strange wallpaper that was on the second floor, and the fact that they had painted everything on the first floor flat white, including all the woodwork.
Yeah.
But we overlooked all of that and saw through it.
Yeah. And so there have been past owners that have come here looking to visit the house, correct?
Yes, we've had about six past owners have come through, just unannounced came through and said, "Oh, I used to live here. Can I come in and see the house?"
Yeah.
And without any warning, they're here.
Yeah. But it's kind of cool because you got some pictures from them, right?
We've got pictures from at least, I think, 3 people sent us pictures, and we had a lot of telling us what it was.
Yeah.
We've got a little oral history from everybody about what they knew about the house.
Yeah.
Or things that happened to them when they were in the house.
And one interesting thing in particular, which you're going to tell me about, right?
Diamond Tooth Eddie.
Well, probably the person that we saw that lived here longest ago was Roland Lindstrom, who lived here in 1925. He was, I think, a 9 or 10-year-old boy, and he showed up. So Roland came by and with the rest of his family and told us what they knew, and their story goes back to a fellow named Diamond Tooth Eddie, and he was a gangster in the 20s. He lived here for a very brief period of time, but he ended up getting shot in the backyard and murdered here.
Actually, right where we're doing the interview was where he was found.
Right through the windows.
The story is that he came home from a funeral of another gangster who was named Samud Samatuna, and he and his wife drove home in their blue Stutz Bearcat, and she got out on Charlton Avenue and opened the swing gate, to get in the driveway. And she walked up a path to the back door, which is over here, and he drove the car in to park it in the barn. And she was inside the house, and I think she was inside the house.
Yes.
She had 3 gunshots, and thought, what was that? And came outside and found Diamond Tooth Eddie dying underneath the kitchen windows
Right
here.
there.
And my recollection is that I read somewhere that she looked up and saw 3 men stealing their Stutz Bearcat and driving away. And the crime was a murder to eliminate Diamond Tooth Eddie. Apparently it wasn't intended to rob him because he had a good bit of cash on him at the time that wasn't taken. And his Stutz Bearcat was later recovered somewhere on Archer Avenue in Chicago. So that was the end of Eddie.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting story, right? Not too many people have a story like that tied to their house.
And when we first moved in, we were told that there was a rumor that Eddie Zion was killed. He called Eddie Diamond Tooth Eddie was killed in the backyard. We never could verify it until years later.
Yeah.
We discovered that his name was actually Zine, and we were searching for Zion. So we later on discovered the story, but it was years later that we heard that.
Yeah.
And it turns out he was shot in November, I think 17th, 1925.
Okay.
And we are able to unearth a lot of the details because there are pictures in the last page of the Chicago Tribune from that era. And it shows a picture of the house and a picture of Sheriff Wolf pointing to the spot where he found him lying, dying.
Yeah.
Over here.
Yeah.
But they said that he was a merchant. They didn't say of what.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with bootlegging. He was not a gangster, et cetera, et cetera. But the interesting part is that they shot him with revolvers, not a machine gun, and it was kind of done in the quote Sicilian style, where they just came up to him face to face and shot him.
Yeah.
And one shot grazed him on the side and wasn't fatal. The other shot hit him in the elbow, so basically he put his arms up and was twisting back and forth.
Yeah.
And the fatal shot hit him in the face or in the mouth, ricocheted off the roof of his mouth, and then tore down into his chest and tore up his lung, and that was the fatal shot.
Okay.
So it's kind of interesting to hear, how it all came about.
Very, very.
So I'm not sure who became the head of the Sicilian Union after that, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was Tony Lombardo, Al Capone's favorite.
Nobody else wanted to come forward.
And of course, his murder was one of the 800 unsolved prohibition murders in Chicago. But there's good reason to think that Capone would have benefited from it.
Right. Well, that's some interesting history. Thanks so much for sharing that with us. And now we're going to go and kind of just look around and see some of the interesting details of this wonderful house.
We should mention that the first owner that we've been able to ascertain of the house was a fellow named Winterburn, who was elected the first mayor of, would have been Mount Forest at that time? Or would have been Willow Springs. I guess it was Willow Springs because 1892.
Spring Forest, because it was called Spring Forest first and then changed to Willow Springs in the 20s.
So he was the first mayor of the community.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
so good to know. Well, thank you for giving us all these facts. That's awesome. Thanks, guys.
Sure.